Yeah. And I think certain strategies and interventions, many strategies and interventions can work with many, right? The visuals, the choice questions. Yeah, we know that, right? But certain strategies like the write and read and preparing and asking again and avoiding, like certain strategies, giving more time to complete a task, focusing on other kids first, may be more exaggerated for one particular child than another. So certain
Mm.
strategies and conditions relate and what is more needed. So for example, even at home, like you were sharing, we have kids with open-ended thought-provoking questions without being prepared, shuts them down. They get frustrated, behavioral problems. They start to get mad, upset. Parents are frustrated. There's family challenges. Everyone's getting mad at each other and blah, 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 blah. And it's like this whole hurricane occurs when in reality, this poor kid has an auditory processing difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more that we prepare, the more we're slower in how we respond, the more we may have labels for some kids with speech and language issues, the more we ask them a choice question versus an open and thought-provoking question without preparing. Going to visit Aunt Sally and Uncle Bill and knowing what questions could they ask, getting prepared, creating the interviews, the games. There's a reason, listeners. There is a reason why these games and goals work. And there's a reason why these games and goals are individualized for each particular child. It's not just getting them to talk. It's giving them accommodations, interventions that are specific to their needs. So when we're at Communicamp and we've done the selective mutism eval and we know that kid's needs, what one counselor is working on with one child is different than what they're necessarily working on with another child, especially when we do these pullouts.
Mm-hmm.
We're helping them do this by giving them the specific strategies that work for them. It's not just let's get them to talk and be courageous to talk. Of course, it's courageous to do things, but it's courageous to hand money to a store clerk. It's courageous to be able to go up to a friend and say hello if they're verbal, or I am and I just statements. How are you? Good. How are you? I'm great. I just started soccer this week. Like, we have to teach some of these kids to do this. We need to give them written assignments to do with aunts and uncles to be able to help them using a script approach. I mean, there's so many things we do. I always say that every child, every teen, every adult we work with, there's a unique recipe that is their recipe. So yeah, you can make chicken soup, a million varieties of chicken soup, but it may taste different. It'll be different with the ingredients, more or less, for different chicken soups. Do you think that's funny that I'm comparing a selective mutism to chicken soups?
Yeah, a little bit.
But I hope it gives our listeners a conceptualization that everyone is different and what works
Yeah.
for one child may not work for another.
Yeah, I usually mention like ingredients for like baking a cake. And so I guess it's kind of similar. Like I'm like, when we want to bake a cake, like every type of cake has different types of ingredients. So if we're just like, oh, let's bake a cake and you're looking at the outcome, you might not always understand like what specific things kind of go into that piece of it. So I guess it's similar to your
The
soup.
chicken soup. Yeah, I think that I'm going to start talking about the cake because that's more delicious to me than chicken soup, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it's great. I think families enjoy it.
And I'm really good at making a chocolate banana cake.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah. That
favorite. I always,
that's
right?
probably one of the only things you can make, but it's
Oh,
great.
thanks. You didn't have to emphasize that.
It's great. I mean, it makes it worth it, honestly. You
I,
you don't know how to make many things, but that's a great one. But anyway, let's get back.
yeah, let's go. I'm also not a good parallel parker. Let's be honest. I try, but
Yeah.
it's tough. But anyway,
We
everyone
know
has,
our strengths.
we know our strengths, which leads me to big shot roles. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, these kids, we're talking about more than shyness. We're talking about these comorbidities, these co-occurring difficulties, and how we have to shape strategies, interventions, accommodations, etc. interventions, 504 plans, IEPs, teaching parents, teaching teachers. Like, it's so important. And I just feel that actually I got a little lost in thought here.
You were mentioning big shot roles.
Oh yeah. Big shot roles. There's so much to talk about. We emphasize what they're not doing and what's challenging, but all of the kids, all of the teens, everyone has strengths in some area. And it may not be the same strengths that other siblings have. It might be different. It might be different than what the parents have interest in. I always give examples of my juggler. I remember my juggler who loved to juggle. and that was his big shot role. And we use that in clubs. We use that in getting together with peers. He joined the circus club. He joined the circus outside. He ended up going to an Ivy League school, did amazing, but that was something he really loved. The baker, the chess player, the runner, the jogger, the person that can sew, the person that can build, the person that's amazing at puzzles. Like, what are your child's strengths? And as we're accommodating and providing the interventions for their challenges, let's build up those strengths, because that's where their anxiety is the lowest. And having a big shot role is confidence boosting, it's self-esteem boosting. So we cannot forget the big shot roles, the confidence boosting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super, super important. So different, many families are listening to us across the world, across the country. If you're suspecting there's any challenges with your child, in addition to more than just shyness and the typical treatment approach is not working, the child seems struggling more in school than seems typical, it's more than anxiety, this is where you need to talk to your treatment provider. And could there be something else?
Hmm.
And, thinking about additional testing if that's needed, to be able to be more, to pinpoint more, for those particular children.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think like that's where you can lean on us to be that provider to help guide you. We do have a selective mutism evaluation for families that we can work with from a treatment perspective in other states that we can work with, and then oppositely, we have something called a selective mutism interview for international families or states that we can't necessarily do treatment in. But they're both very similar in the fact that we do explore a lot of these underlying whys of selective mutism. So even your first interaction with us, whether you're in active treatment or not, we will be discussing a lot of these things, and we'll be kind of getting into this like underneath aspect, which is probably one of the first times that you'd be going over something like this when you have maybe even done other types of selective mutism treatment. I get that feedback a lot when I do my SMEs and SMIs, is that families are like, wow, like it's so interesting that you're asking me about speech and language challenges, or it's so interesting that you're asking if my child is learning processing challenges. Like usually they're just asking me questions about where they're talking or where they're not. So, we explore a lot of these things. So even in sometimes the initial evaluation that you do with us or the interview, we will be talking to you about what we maybe recommend further. So sometimes it's, hey, let's continue to observe you and maybe start with more of an individualized or group treatment with us, or we can kind of have more of that time to assess what's going on. And other times it might be, hey, you're sharing that you have some of these concerns, you're talking about it, you recognize that maybe you've gotten an invalid assessment at another time of your life. Maybe your child's going into middle school and you really want to make sure that you're getting the best type of accommodations for them. We can talk through that. And maybe in that initial evaluation, that's where we'll talk about those next steps. So
and
definitely something that we can explore together.
And so, with that said, I think it's important to know that if you have an amazing treatment provider that you absolutely love, but they need more guidance, maybe they're not specialists in the field, that you feel, they're like very open and saying, hey, listen, I really want to learn. I really want to, we do professional consults all the time. And I have to say that the selective mutism eval is a way for you to take that evaluation and share it with your school, share it with your provider, share it. It's a very comprehensive eval. It's based on my original selective mutism comprehensive diagnostic questionnaire, my SMCDQ, that was a 24-page document to really understand and conceptualize the whole person. And I would say for families that whomever you're working with, it is more than not speaking. If your child is like, it's more than not speaking. You see these other challenges that we're giving you throughout the podcast. Please explore this with your provider. By all means, stay with that provider, talk with that provider, share these resources. Like, our mission in life is to share these resources, educate others. I mean, we just did a huge fundraiser in Florida called through the Selective Mutism Research Institute, which helps to do research, which helps to get these percentages, which helps to explain what really is SM. What is it? What are the characteristics? What are the comorbidities? What are the treatment strategies that work best with different kids? And I think that's really, really important. And I think for parents, this is a relief often to hear, wow, there could be something else. Is it more than shyness? And knowing that there's people out there that can really help and support you is important. And you said something really, really good that I want to, well, you said a lot of good stuff, but mentioned, like, we notice at Communicamp that sometimes we tell families, look, don't run and get testing right away. Like a 4 or 5 year old, like we're just still trying to figure it out. Even an older child where we're just not sure yet. They're showing signs, but that doesn't mean you dive into treat, these assessments right
Mhm.
away at all. It means let's take a monitor. Let's wait and see.
Right.
And we will see sometimes at Communicamp or individual care signs of some of these other things that maybe you didn't even mention. Like we saw signs, we thought about it, and we're like, wow, yeah, this is there. We see it. We see this. These
Mhm.
are things you may want to continue to monitor, but maybe get testing. Talk to your school about it. We have a lot of schools that will come to us for independent educational evaluations, IEEs, because they have difficulty assessing a mute child. But if you're in other states and you can't, fly to certain centers, I would say talk to your school about it. Talk to your treatment provider about it. I think it's really important to bring these flags up of the different comorbidities that we talked about